6% body fat is ideal for men. That's who Athlean X. Motherfucker, you better hope we don't meet in person. I'm kidding. Or am I? Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization, and today's video is about the ultimate thing that we all want to know: how to roughly tell your body fat, or if you're creepy like that, somebody else's body fat without any monitoring or skin fold calipers or tape measures or DEXA scans, or even without having to wait in the apartment across from theirs with a telescope. Days on end, soaked in your own juices, just waiting for them to take their clothes off. Yes, I do understand that it is both unethical and illegal to do these things, but we can all fantasize. So, here we go. Quick caveat before we start going through the different kinds of body fat ranges and telling you what you can probably expect to look like. There is quite a bit of individual variation on how people store their fat. Some people will look really lean in a ton of their body, and you're like, dude, you're at 10%. But they have a really, well, I'll just say it, fat ass, or really fatty thighs, or a lot of fat in their gut, love handles, etc. And then their overall, let's say they go get a DEXA, that's like 12%. You're like, really, dude, you look like you're 8. Well, yeah, but have you seen this? And they show you the love handle, and you're like, haha, that looks 25%. I guess it makes sense with the rest of you. So that's a big deal. Another thing is, nothing beats technically the MRI, but after that, nothing beats the DEXA. And whatever you think someone's body fat is, if they've had a DEXA, that's the best answer. Almost always. Like very rarely, in some really contest conditioning circumstances, the DEXA can be a little bit illusory and the eyeball is better, but almost never is that the case. And because of these differences and these especially ways in which people store their body fat, when I go down this list, this is not a checklist. If we have these things we're looking for, you're this body fat type of situation. It's more of a helpful guide that makes you a little bit less wrong and a little bit more right. You'll notice that these are in 5 to 10% increments just to make our discussion simpler and also make us more likely to be correct with a bit of a margin of error. All right, here we go. We're going to go through one of these for the gentlemen and then one of these for the ladies. What's up, ladies? Ooh, ooh. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Here we go. 30% plus. We will not go higher than this because then you're just, gee whiz, you know. You just got a lot going on, which is sweet, but there's a lot of you, which is great. 30% plus. Or in this case, 30, 31, 32, all the way to 35-ish. As a male, you can expect, in many cases, fat overhang, such as your love handles, fat overhang on your lower tummy, and droopy fat deposits, not droopy, but visible, grabbable fat deposits under places like your chest, your lats, etc. And in most cases, you don't have any visible muscle separation. So if you see someone on World's Strongest Man and their arm just looks like a thing that has no separation, they're probably in that close to 30%, if not higher range. Absolutely a thing. Dropping down to the 25 to 30% body fat range, in many cases, probably in most, but not all the time, you might have some fat overhang, but possibly no overhang, just a smooth layer of fat, especially if you're young or have the genetics for that sort of thing, because some people store a lot of fat in their abdomen, and 25 to 30%, they're going to have some overhang, but their arms are being weirdly lean, and other people store their fat more around their whole body, and then you're like, well, you don't look lean or not lean, you just kind of look like you're there. That might be more of a thing. If you are pretty jacked, at 25 to 30%, people can tell that you have big delts, big arms, and big legs, and they now look distinctly like they're not made entirely of fat. Like if you have a dude who's like 5'9", 270 pounds, and is like pretty jacked, but has 27% body fat, you don't look at him especially in like a t-shirt or a tank top, and you're like, that guy's just pure fat. You're like, yeah, look like a bouncer or something. He's definitely got some shit there that looks like muscle. 20 to 25%, you typically don't have any more overhanging fat, just kind of the smooth fat that lies around evenly. But there's not really any separation of muscle subsections yet. So at 20 to 25%, you probably won't be able to see your rear delts from your front delts. You won't be able to see the different parts of your back, the rhomboids, traps, and lats, etc. It's just all kind of be one incrementally now more shapely mess of muscle. You're almost certainly not going to see the 3 quads. Forget about seeing your hamstrings. That's highly unlikely. If, However, you are very jacked at that percent fat. You can see your arms, this thing here, start to separate a little bit from your delts. You can tell a distinct separation because your waist is now a little bit narrower in your lower and upper back, especially if you're jacked enough for your lats to flare out. They won't look like lats, but they'll look like bigger things. You can start to tell your chest from your lats if you're viewing from the front and side. So some kind of semblance of shape is starting to hit us at 20 to 25%. At 15 to 20% fat for males, you might start to see a semblance of shape to your midsection, perhaps a few ab-like structures. At this point in a long-term fat loss journey, if you're starting out pretty fat, when you get into that 16, 17% body fat range, this is the first time where you're like, oh my fucking God, am I seeing something that looks like abs? It's like getting really excited to drive to Chicago. I don't know why the fuck that would ever be exciting. And you start to see the Willis Tower, whatever the fuck it's called now, Sears Tower back in the day, like from 30 miles away, and you're like, oh my fucking God, I can't tell anything, but that's one big ass building, Chicago. You can't see Chicago yet, but you're getting hints. You can't see your abs yet in most cases, but there's some kind of shape there, a little bump here, a little thing there. The waist is coming down. It's starting to look like something is happening. In most cases here, you'll start to see visible triceps. So if you flex your tricep, people can tell there's like at least two heads in there, separate from the bicep, delts clearing up from the rest of the arm, and from the side, especially when flexing, you can start to tell that there's a distinct quad and a distinct hamstring. All right, getting there, getting there. Now here's where the fun starts to happen. 10 to 15% fat. In most cases, somewhere in that range, most people will have visible abs, that is to say a six-pack, which is awesome. You're even gonna get a few veins here and there. Sometimes people have quite a few veins at 10 to 15%, but not dependably. I'll say almost everyone will have some veins that are visible at 10 to 15%, especially like the various veins on your biceps, forearms, sometimes some shit gets through the chest, some leg veins maybe. Most major muscles are now distinct from one another. People can see your lats, and generally your upper back at least is different than your lower back. They can see that your lats are different than your mid back. They can see your traps perched on high by themselves, delts, biceps, triceps, forearms. You can see that there's the hamstring muscles, the quads, the glutes are now generally separate from the hamstrings. There's no flow anymore. So most of the major muscle groups are distinct from one another. This is one of the reasons, not the top reason by a long shot, that most bodybuilders won't mass up to higher than 15% fat, because bodybuilders like to check their physiques to see how their improvements are coming along in the off season. And if you can't tell major muscle groups from one another, gee whiz, you're not really bodybuilding anymore in any strict sense. So a lot of times that 10 to 15% range, you're looking fluffy in the sense that you're smooth, but man, you can definitely tell all the muscles apart from each other. It was kind of like minimum safe distance from that contest prep kind of thing. And for many people, not all, some of the muscle parts are going to become visible. Like if you flex your quad properly, you'll have 3 visible surface quads. If you flex your hamstrings right, and especially if you're somebody who doesn't store a lot of fat in the hams, you can just start to see some hamstring details. So you're like, okay, like this is a really, really exciting thing. 5 to 10%. By the way, as far as fractions of your fat mass go, imagine, let me finish the thought. As fractions go, even though we're going 5% down each time in this list, 5% constitutes a bigger and bigger fraction of whatever fat you have left. So if you go from 22% to 17%, definitely look different. If you go from 17% to like 12%, you look really different. If you go from 12% to like 7%, you're a fucking completely different person. If you go from 7% to like 3 or 4% in a DEXA, you're not a human being anymore. So the changes get faster and faster or more profound looking as you get leaner, because every single 5 for sure percent, every single percent of body fat represents a bigger fraction of the fat you have left. It's like you're looking at, let's say a strength of a division of a military that's 100 people. If you chop off 5 people at a time, 100 people is almost the same strength as 95 people. 90 people can still put up a good fight. If you got 15 guys and you lose 5 of them, 10 guys is really different from 15 as far as operational capability versus 100 to 95. And if you got 10 guys, you go down to 5 guys, oh my fucking God, that's half of your force. That's the same impressiveness as going from 100 to 50 people on your military squad or whatever. So as you get leaner, you'll be able to see more intense changes. Now, it's tougher to get leaner, but it's one of these things where I'm basically trying to explain the fact that we were at 15 to 20 and it was like, oh yeah, you'll see some stuff, 10 to 15, like, oh, pretty good. Folks, 5 to 10 is where the nonsense begins. And it's not just comes out of nowhere. It's the fact that to get from 15 to 9, you've lost like, gee whiz, over a third of your remaining body fat, which is a ton of fat. So here we go, 5 to 10% for males. Veins, often all over. Veins everywhere. Clear abs. Your serratus and obliques are clearly visible. The muscles are all completely separated. Nothing's lost in translation. Many of the muscles will be striated, cross-striated when you're flexing them. When you are pumped, your skin color can change very radically. It'll go from just you being whatever color you are, especially if you're Caucasian, to like a weird off pinkish red, to where people are like, what the fuck? Like a really lean person in the gym, they get really lean, they pull a shirt off, they're like, is that really like what your skin looks like? Well, holy shit, it happens with naturals, happens even more with enhanced people for other various reasons, but even for natties, the skin starts to look a little different when you're that lean, when you're pumped. When you're not pumped, if you're enhanced, your skin always looks weird. If you're natural, you look kind of normal. At this point, 5 to 10%, your face really starts to get lean for most people. And it's getting leaner the whole time, but kind of in a way that people can tell. Like if you show up to work and all of a sudden, you took like 6 weeks off to go to a project somewhere, you did a crazy diet, you came back and your coworkers are seeing you for the first time and you're at 8% body fat, they're gonna be like, damn, you look like a different person. What the hell happened to your face? It's kind of cool, but holy shit. So it's a really, really big deal. Now, here's where the insanity begins, sub 5%. Me personally, my best DEXA has been at 5 point something, so I've never gotten here. Hopefully in this next contest prep, I'll get a good whack at it. Just not that many people in the world have ever gotten here. What does that look like? First of all, you're riddled with veins in most cases. Some people have genetics for not so many veins, but most people have absurd veins at this point. When you are pumped or warm, your veins have veins. Like if you're in a warm gym or you get into the sauna after getting a good pump and you pull your shirt off and you're at 4% body fat, you're going to be like, you could stare at a person for a long time. If you're like on psychedelic mushrooms or something, you're like, bro, there's super highways in your shit. Veins and the little tiny veins everywhere. It looks like parchment paper almost. You're just like, what the fuck is going on with your body? It doesn't look normal. It's not something like where like a typical girl will be like, oh my God, like Brad Pitt's so lean, like in Fight Club, he looks good, ha ha ha. If you see someone who's a 4% body fat training at your gym and you're that girl, you're not going to be like, oh my God, you're so lean. You're just going to be like, what the fuck happened here? Gross. In any case, who cares what that bitch thinks? Cross striations will be everywhere, including your triceps in many cases, quads, glutes. Here's the big difference, on average, between people in the 5 to 10% range and people in the sub 5% range. 5 to 10, they have amazing striations when they flex. Sub 5, the striations when they flex are nonsense. But even when just walking across the stage or walking across the gym and they're moving their arms, you can see their tricep striations come and go. If they've got their posing trunks on, you can see their glutes stride and unstride every step they take. It's weird. You're like, holy fucking shit, you are literally like pretty much out of body fat. It's nonsense at every level. The face at this point looks like death. Like, it doesn't look like you're lean. It's not like, you look like Willem Dafoe or Maria Shriver or whatever. Like, no. It's like clearly visible parts of your skeleton. And it just doesn't look, it looks disconcerting. Their eyes are sunken in. They often have like sort of droopy shit going on. It's a huge trip. If you are Caucasian, a lot of times at this level, if you have a pump especially, your veins are clearly visible in a hue of blue. So you're this like pale white motherfucker and there's little blue things going on. It's really trippy. Very, very exotic. Almost nobody gets there. But I will say for most professional contests, amateur contests, getting to the bottom of the 5 to 10% range is all you'll ever need to do really, really well. This is that extra. And you see a guy at your show that has remotely any muscle mass and he comes in at sub 5%, that guy won the show because it just doesn't look right. All right, ladies, preview. The ladies will have some different appearances because they store body fat differently in the higher body fat ranges. But as the body fat starts to come off, they start to mirror more and more of the responses or visual cues that we looked for in males. Females will start to get a lot of those as well. I'll put it in a more simple way. When males and females are both in that 5% region, they all look the fucking same. They ain't no more fucking sexually mediated fat tissue. Bitches don't have hips. They don't have titties when they're that fucking lean. Nobody's got shit anymore. They just like stare at each other. And if you put sub 5% men and women into a room naked, they usually don't even have any sexual relations. They just stare at each other and sit down and just look at the wall. And then when food comes in, they go, oh my God. And that's all that you can expect out of that sort of thing. So ladies, at 30% plus, oftentimes, not always, the bra and undies make distinct fat pinches where you have fat spillover, which nobody wants to know this, but is absolutely one of my top tier things I'm looking for. Good God, Scott, the video guy. Talk myself into excitement here. I love it. Lean girls, it's nice that you do this. Namaste. But in any case, no visible muscle separation in most cases at 30% plus. And at this level, depending on your genetics, you can either have really big, huge, wide hips and waist, big, huge hips and glutes and thighs, or you can have relatively normal hips and thighs and glutes, but your waist is wide enough for there not to be as much of an hourglass appearance. So if you want the hourglass shape, getting a bit leaner than 30% plus is usually a good idea, is what you want to do to get that effect that you want. At 25 to 30% for females, there's still often no clear muscle separation. People might not be able to tell that you lift weights if you're really into lifting weights, but your shape is coming in and your waist generally starts to narrow significantly versus hips. This is where in people's transformational journeys, they start to really feel like in clothes, they look shapely, and it's an awesome, super, super inspirational thing for a lot of females, especially that have been quite high in body fat for a large fraction of their life. The first time they get into that 25 to 30% zone, they're like, okay. Shit's happening for sure, right? 20 to 25%, the shape starts to become really distinct. This is actually quite lean for women, accounting for the secondary sexual characteristics of breast, gluteal, and thigh body fat that women have much more than males do on average. If you obviate for that, it's really much more of what a male would look like at 15 to 20%. So you get a lot of shape that's distinct. There's no large fat deposits left in many cases here, outside of the breasts and glutes/thighs, and some upper body muscles, because females tend to have much leaner upper bodies than lower bodies, can be distinct, especially when lifting. Like a girl who is at 23% body fat, when she does lateral raises, you're like, damn, bitch got shoulders, we got triceps and biceps and delts. You can start to see that stuff separate out a little bit. 15 to 20% for females. Very likely you're getting into 4-pack, if not 6-pack territory at this point. Your waist is starting to get really, really tight. If you have really good genetics for abs, you got abs at this point, somewhere in that range. In most cases, you're going to have visible triceps. Delts are clearing up from the rest of the arm. If you're just relaxed in a tank top walking around the store, people are like, damn, bitch got fucking, goddamn, he's jacked. People can tell. The hams and quads are now visible separately from each other and often separately from the glutes. Technically speaking, this is often the healthiest body fat for most females to occupy, somewhere north of 15%. Below that, a lot of times you get cessation of the menses, amenorrhea, and all kinds of not ideal things for the long term. And it's often the most universally attractive. Like if you poll 1,000 men with different pictures of females, generally they'll pick anywhere between 15% fat to 25% fat, skewed a little bit to the 15 to 20 as the most attractive. They don't know what the fuck they're looking for. They don't care about body fat at all. It's the shape and the look that they're looking for. Most of the time, the best shape that simultaneously looks the healthiest is available for many females in that 15 to 20% range. So without putting too fine a point on it, if you're a female and you have no competitive aspirations and you don't want to take the slight health downsides of getting much leaner than this, you just want to be fucking jacked and beautiful and hot and live your best life, a goal of anywhere between 15 and 20% fat to just be at or cycle around in is fucking probably it. If you're a female and you're in the fitness space, a lot of times you have to deal with the noise of the males talking about what body fat is ideal. And you'll have like, I think there, Scott the video guy, I think there was like a literally, maybe, I don't want to put it on him, but it sounds like some shit he'd say, an Athlean-X video that was like 7% body fat is the ideal body fat for men, which by the way is literal nonsense. 7%, you don't feel like a man anymore. You feel like a broken machine. But women will see that and they'll be like, oh my God, I got to get to at least 10%. And that's not a thing, because let me tell you about what 10% has coming.
6% body fat is ideal for men. Harsh truth! Exclamation point.
6% body fat is ideal for men. That's who? Athlean X? Motherfucker, you better hope we don't meet in person. I'm kidding. Or am I? I'm kidding, of course. That's fucking literal nonsense. It's totally insane. There's no, oh my God. Most good athletes are in that 10 to 15% range. Depending on the sport, sometimes the 8 to 12% range. Marathoners can be 6%, but Jesus Christ, that's the only fucking sport you need to be that lean in. You go watch D1 wrestling and tell me how many of the guys are at 6% body fat. It's fucking nonsense. So, okay, here we go.
Training for muscle growth is never going to be the same.
10 to 15% for females. You got visible abs in most cases. I mean, like almost all cases. Your waist often looks very lean and very small. You're starting to get veins that are more prominent. You really can't avoid the veins at this body fat percent. And some women don't like the look of veins, and that's something to take into consideration. Most, if not all, of your major muscle groups are very distinct from each other. You can tell delts from triceps or biceps, forearms, etc. Some muscle parts will become visible, oftentimes if you have the right genetics. Many muscle parts, like 3 visible quads, ham detail, etc. The face will now start to look much leaner than the average woman. There is a reason that bikini Olympians and figure girls get a ton of face filler. I think it's a great look. Some people don't like it. But if they didn't get the face filler, they would kind of look all like Willem Dafoe on stage, which is shit. That's fucking my fantasy, but you know, that's not everyone else's look. What I'm saying is that at 10 to 15%, in most cases, you don't look like cutie little fucking Jim Bebopper bitch. You look like you're on your way to something real serious. You do a set of rows and you turn, the guy's like, ma'am, look away, or be like, you getting ready for a show? That's the body fat percent of people like, you getting ready for a show, or do you just compete, or are you gonna do a show tomorrow? Really, really not the look that describes many people's ideal for feminine health and beauty. I could give a fuck for ideals. That's all your individual choice, but just reporting from the statistical averages here. And 10 to 15% is below the roughly 15% body fat mark, below which your body decides it's too lean to give you periods anymore. It causes a long-term slow bone mass loss, a bunch of other health stuff, nothing crazy. You can get into this 10 to 15% fat and even lower as a female every now and again to do a show or really like look ridiculous for no reason at all except for your own perception or desire. But it's not somewhere you want to live. You don't want to live there. You want to live as a female above 15%. It's kind of like in mountaineering. I forgot what altitude it is. I think maybe 18,000 feet. Don't kill me in the comments. Let me know in the comments which the altitude, but there's an altitude above which you actually just can't sustain yourself as a human. The oxygen saturation isn't high enough. So like you're just timing out. Like a couple months later, everyone up there dies except for like Gurkhas or some shit like that. And then for them, it's like 8 months. For you, it's 4. So there's like altitude below that, which has the highest living human subpopulations that just actually live at that altitude. Flipping that around for females, 15% on average. People get away with all kinds of weird stuff with exceptions. 15% plus is where you want to live as a female, occasionally dipping lower if you would like. But this is officially unhealthy. If you're a female and you tell me you're 11% body fat, I'm like, sweet, how long are you going to be here for? And, I just love living here. I'll be like, let me avail you to some of the downsides there. 5 to 10%. And sub 5% for females is almost identical to what it is for males, because all the body fats north of here have stripped the female of almost all, if not all, of her secondary sexual characteristic fat, like breast tissue, glute tissue, thigh tissue. Now you just look female still, but you don't look like you have a terrible affinity for one gender or the other. Everyone at a certain body fat level just looks really fucking lean. So just to review, at 5 to 10%, if you're female, you can expect veins pretty much all over, clear abs, serratus obliques. You are going to have completely separated muscles that often have striations when you flex them. Your skin color is going to look trippy when you're pumped. Your face looks really, really lean. Everyone can tell you're not the average person anymore. And of course, sub 5%, which is very difficult for females to hit because that body fat, the secondary sexual characteristic body fat, it tries to hang around as much as possible to keep your ass surviving. It eventually goes on everyone. There's probably a handful of women that have reached sub 5% body fat, maybe not a handful, maybe a couple hundred over the course of competitive bodybuilding. But there are pictures of girls which throw in there where you're like, that bitch is whatever the fuck she wants to be. There's zero body fat on that person. Like, I can believe a number of 3%. That does happen. I've personally administered a DEXA to a figure competitor that looked like the 5 to 10 range here, and she was at 7%. So, I mean, look, like if she just continued to diet for 5 or 10 more weeks, she could have nailed 4 point something. So it is possible. Riddled with veins. When you're pumped or warm, your veins have veins. It's really freaky. Cross-striations are everywhere. You see a female at 4% bite down, and you can see a cross-striated masseter muscle. Face looks like total death. On females, it's a really trippy look because there's a sociological, almost universal, the kind of puffy-faced female. I don't mean puffy in a derogatory sense. I mean like a full, healthy face. It's actually one of the universal characteristics of attractiveness, where male will see a woman with a full face and think that confers, infer completely subconsciously that confers reproductive and youth advantages. And so it's considered universally pretty attractive. Usually the Willem Dafoe face isn't something that I think it's fucking great, but it usually doesn't fly with as many people of the same or opposite sex that are attracted to people, is what I'm trying to say. But it'll look very, very profound. Like if you see a male with very distinct cheekbones and kind of like strung out and you can see his teeth through his face, you're like, that guy's fucking, shit happens. You see a female like that, you're gonna be like, holy fuck. Because females are typified statistically by a slightly higher body fat percentage everywhere, including their face, they're further away from their own norm when they're at sub 5% than males are. Males are also very far away, but not quite as far away, right? Like if you saw a 3,000 pound giraffe, you'd be like, I think that's how much they're supposed to weigh. If you saw a 3,000 pound horse, you'd be like, holy fucking shit, that is really a big horse. So kind of the same idea for females here. The face look for females, short of filler, and even with filler, there's something a little bit missing there. At sub 5%, the face looks, it's a trip. I encourage you to check that out. And again, if you're Caucasian female, you can see the blue in your veins. And if you're Asian or African American or any other race female, you just look fucking absurd in the most amazing way possible. But in a way that I must say is no longer healthy. Now, males generally can maintain very good health into the sub 10% range. Lower than about 7 or 8% for most males, they're going to have androgen hormones start to really fall off. That's not necessarily unhealthy. It just means you lose muscle and fat for a while longer and they don't have the best training or the best recovery or the best sleep or the best anything. But for females, getting that lean is particularly nasty because it shuts down the cycle that is, the female period and all of the attendant consequences that has. So I don't want to be too much of a health preacher. We all know what we're getting ourselves into. So to wrap this up, a few things. One, these are all averages and just guides. If someone brings you a DEXA and it's a real DEXA and fake it, and it says, hey, I'm 11%, they're actually 11%. And if they don't look 11%, that's your problem, not theirs, right? Then it turns out, oh yeah, Mike said that variation was pretty great. Someone at 11% could look fucking stage ready sometimes. It's weird how that happens. Somebody at 11% could look like they're 17%. And you're like, you're not really 11%. It's like, no, I sure shit am. A lot of times people store body water so people can get an 11% DEXA because it sees through water to actual tissue. And you're like, bullshit, you're like 17%, you're not 11%. They do a water cut and you're like, oh my God, what did you do to lose all that fat? And they're like, nothing, I didn't do any fat loss. It was 1 week. I just cut the water and then boom, I'm shredded. I told you it was 11%. Yeah, okay, so it is. So there's a lot of stuff there. Just think of these as averages. Another thing, just slowly, cautiously, meticulously, and in phases of roughly 5% to 7% body fat loss at any one time before a break, get to whatever body fat level makes you happy. There's not really any wrong answers here. It's just trade-offs. None of these are better. 5% fat isn't better. I've been at just over 5% fat before. They don't give you a trophy for that. You just look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, this is cool. But you don't have any more energy to think about a lot of stuff. So you're like, I'm over it. And if it's like your jam to be 7%, run around and flex everyone, amazing. You need that fucking karmic therapy for your own soul. Get that shit. But there's not like right or wrong answers. I don't want this video to be misconstrued as being like, oh, Mike says females should be 5 to 10% or ideally above 15 or whatever. That's all your personal judgment call. We run this channel for adults. You're all adults. You're all smart. You're all responsible. Make intelligent choices. Check in when you're doing a contest prep with some sort of healthcare provider. Get your blood work done. Don't do anything stupid. And be smart and enjoy your life at every body fat percent. Because at the end of the day, if aliens come down and you're like, yeah, we don't like that person because they're too fat, they're going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? And you don't want to piss off the aliens. They have phaser guns. In any case, if you like more nerdy stuff, folks, we have a members channel, members part of this channel that has extra videos every week for usually more nerd-like content, deep into the throes of sport physiology. We also have the Team Full ROM forum. That is that next level of nerdiness, and you can get all of your questions about training and diet answered. We can actually look at pictures of your body in our forum and give you some combination of advice on what to do next, and just like snide criticisms, like, yeah, you look okay, ... I'm kidding, we're all super positive, super supporting. Tons of diet stuff, tons of training stuff in there. It's all one low monthly fee of $9 trillion. It's going to come down with inflation. If you like that, that's all below in the comments, or sorry, in the description. Get in the comments, tell us what you think, tell us we're wrong, tell us you hate us, tell us you love us. Just say something. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time.